Welcome to part 1 of our 2-part video workshop on resumes for graduate students and postdocs at Penn. We are creating these videos to give you some best practices, advice, and action steps you can take as you're progressing through the job search process. This is a great resource to use before scheduling an appointment with an advisor at Career Services to get a review of your resume. When you meet with an advisor to get feedback, make sure you also share a job description too, as your resume should always be customized for each role, something that we will touch on today. You can get more information on all these topics from the Career Services website, and I've shared some links to some of our online resources in the description section below this video. There is certainly lots of information that I can give you about resumes, but rather than just having you be a passive listener, I also want to engage you in this video workshop by asking you a few questions, encouraging you to pause and think about what I'm sharing, and even getting you to answer out loud, something that you'll find is really helpful. Well, so long as you're somewhere private enough that this won't be weird for you. If you happen to have a quick emailable question about anything that I'm covering in this video, and if you are a Penn student, postdoc, or alum with an active Handshake account, then you're welcome to email me directly. Just use this as your subject line, and I will respond with an answer, and with additional encouragement to schedule an appointment with us. So what is a resume? Whether you are thinking about a one-page version that consulting firms are keen on, or a 2 to 3 page version that are common for R&D positions, nonprofits, and even administrative roles in academia, the purpose of a resume is to create an image in the mind of the reader that allows them to imagine you working in the role that you're applying for. The hiring manager knows what skills are needed, what challenges the new hire is likely to face, what value-added experiences would add to their current team members, and what new industry-wide challenges are on the horizon. And this hiring manager will look at the resume and wonder if the person it describes has the skills, can overcome the challenges, and adds value to the team. So the resume is a two-dimensional version of you that introduces you to the reader, shows your skills in action, and highlights some of your successes. But it's not just the general version of you that you see in the mirror every day. It needs to be the version of you that is most relevant to each job that you're applying to. In fact, the resume really reflects the best of you that is relevant in terms of your skills and experiences. It is the you when you are wearing your fanciest outfit for a special occasion, when you've spent an unnatural amount of time grooming yourself and squeezing into super fancy but often uncomfortable clothes. So let's take a quick look at your resume. Go ahead and pause this video in a second and find the most recent version you have. It doesn't matter how rough it is or what you're using it for, but read through the document. Not in your head, because you won't actually read what you've written when you read with your inside voice. Read it out loud. This will force you to read it as it's written, not as your brain imagines you've written it. Now, it will sound strange reading it out loud, but it will help your brain to stop paraphrasing everything for you, and it will help you to visualize your narrative more effectively. Okay, go ahead and pause. I'll be right here when you get back. Here are some possible responses you may have. This is probably the first time you've read this out loud, and hopefully this gave you an idea of what you sound like in 2 dimensions. You should also be able to pick out some of the themes that you're trying to communicate to your reader. So let's pause again here and consider that. Reflect for a minute or two and write down the 5 main takeaways that you want the reader to have having read your resume. Go ahead and pause here. As you look at your list, I'm positive that some of you said that you want people to know that you have a strong educational background and great experience, or some variation on that theme. I'm confident because that's what many students and postdocs say when I ask them this question in an appointment. The challenge with this response is that a great education and experience are not tangible descriptions that I can picture in my head as the reader. They are not concepts that are by themselves relevant to a specific job, and they are not skills-focused descriptions of what you can bring with you to an organization. They are true though, and so never forget that. As a graduate student or postdoc at Penn, you will have plenty of marketable experiences that you can use to show your skills in action. Now, if you had a hard time coming up with your 5 key takeaways having read your own resume, which is a reflection of you, someone you've been for decades, then imagine how hard it is for a hiring manager who isn't you to walk away from your resume with clear takeaways. And just to make it more complex, you'll find that different aspects of your experience are more or less relevant to the reader depending on the nature of the position that you're applying to. And so the takeaways in your resumes may change as you apply for slightly different roles at different types of organizations. Every version of a resume you write will represent a slightly different version of you that will hopefully be customized and relevant for the reader. So each resume has its own flavor, like ice cream or sorbet. You can be different flavors of ice cream, but in each case, aspects of your skills and experiences also remain constant. After all, you are still ice cream even if you are strawberry flavored. As a hiring manager, if I am looking for strawberry flavored ice cream because this represents skills and experiences that fit the role, then if I can immediately tell that a resume tastes like strawberries, I'm going to be happy. I have found a great candidate to possibly interview. And you can have different experiences and skills that are complementary, that taste good together, and that are all transferable to the roles that you're interested in. However, if your resume has the whole ice cream bar full of flavors all mixed together, the strawberry, chocolate, vanilla, butterscotch, mint, fudge, and so on, without any thought or prioritization, then the strawberry flavor will be impossible to detect. And oh my goodness, that looks disgusting. The flavor of your resume should be enhanced by the way you describe your skills and experiences throughout the document. In general terms, you should try to use the language that people in the role that you're applying for use to describe their own work, and then use this to describe some of your experiences. This can take a bit of thought. Let me illustrate this with a common type of experience that graduate students and postdocs often talk about in resumes. Here is the type of description that I see in a fair number of resumes. This represents a very accurate description of what the writer did. Now we can immediately improve this by adding some quantifiable elements to the description. You've probably read this advice somewhere if you've ever searched for resume advice online. This makes the experience sound more believable and tangible. It's a little better, don't you think? Other advice you might have heard is to add qualitative descriptors or context to make the experience really come to life. And here I've added details about the types of students involved. Each of these tells more of a story. But here's the question. What is the story? What is the takeaway for the reader here? As you read these bullets, what is your takeaway about the person who did this? Pause for a moment and write down what you walk away with having read this. Now what is missing here is a focus on transferable skills. Unless this student is applying for a role where office hours and grading are a key part of the job, these descriptions by themselves won't be that helpful. Now, if you've also been a TA, you may have a better sense of what skills are actually used. But if the reader has never been a TA, then the descriptions will be all the information that they have to go on. Let's take a moment to see how many specific and transferable skills you can list that are relevant to being a TA. Go ahead and pause this video while you write down some of these ideas. And no skipping ahead in the video to see my list. Well, unless you really want to. Here is my list of skills that are connected to being a TA. And you can see that there are plenty to pick from if you really think about what is important from a reader's perspective. These are skills that are applicable in roles far beyond being a teaching assistant. Now, hiring managers cannot read between the lines and figure out that you've used many of these skills as a TA, and so you'll need to find a way to illustrate these skills in action within your resume. Employers will only take away what you write, so make sure that what you write is meaningful to them. The general format for any bullet point you write in a resume is skill, context, outcome. The first few words of the bullet point highlight the specific skill that is relevant to the employer. The context is there to put the skill in, well, context, and the outcome shows how effective the skill was. Not everything will have a hugely significant outcome, and so it's okay just to focus on the smaller outcomes that are specific to your skill. If you performed a literature review, an outcome might be sharing a 5-page summary with your peers so that they could access this information as well. The outcome doesn't have to be something like a published paper. The skills highlighted should always be relevant to the reader, using language that you have seen in the job description. Your specific context may not be as relevant, and if that is the case, try to spend more time showing how you use the transferable skill, and not on why or where you used it. Any bullet point you see in a resume can be changed to highlight a different aspect of the experience, or even a different skill, depending on what's most relevant to the reader. Take this bullet point as an example. Right now, the emphasis is on collaboration and being able to work across disciplines. This is the same experience, but now the focus has shifted to highlight software skills and the use of Python in particular. Same experience again, but now with knowledge of federal databases being prioritized. I think you get the picture. So the question then becomes, which of the many versions of your bullet points should you use? This is a question I will answer for you, because it's one of the key elements of resume writing. The more you know about a job you want to apply to, both from the job description and the many conversations you have with alumni and other networking contacts who have this type of job, the easier it becomes to choose which of the skill narratives you should use. If you are having a hard time deciding how to make your past and present experiences relevant to your future career goals, then set up an appointment at Career Services through Handshake. We are more than happy to help. Stop by our website and take a look at more of the resources that we have on resumes, and use some of the online tools to help you craft a version that employers are excited to see. You can see some of the most relevant ones in the description below this video. And remember, a clearly defined narrative about your relevant skills in a resume is important, just like a single flavor of ice cream is delicious. You may have diverse experiences that you're bringing to a new role, and that's okay. When each of your narratives complements one another and adds value to your application, this still works well. But not having a clear narrative and just mixing everything that you've done into one big gooey mess will make it hard for the reader to see the relevant skills, experiences, and knowledge that you bring. Don't forget to email me if you have a quick question about anything covered in this video. And if you haven't already watched our best practices for resume formatting video, take a look at this next.